All right. Good morning. How you all doing? Karibuni sana. Hope you're well. This beautiful 11th day of April 2025. We're glad that you could join us. Welcome to the Afriforex Daily Analysis. For those of you that are new here, we do this every Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. in the morning. So feel free to join us with the same link on YouTube that you did use to join us, or on our channel. Of course, feel free to like and subscribe so that at least you will also be notified, of course, if you turn on the bell notification anytime we do go live. So for the sake of guys who are new here, John Bogo is my name. I'm a trader with Afriforex. Afriforex is a trading unit, so it's not a one-man show. We also do have the rest of the team here in the back office. So in case you do have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat box. The team will be getting back to you, but they will also be looking at those questions towards the very tail end of this session. But as always, you don't really need to wait until the very end. You still can ask even as we do continue progressing on. So we're going to jump straight into it. So we'll start off by looking at the watch list. And you can see that in comparison to what we had yesterday, yesterday seemed like a joke of a watch list, but it's nothing that we could have done. It was beyond our control, of course, based on the tariffs and the uncertainty that's been there on the markets. So we decided to take a bit of a pause on the currency pairs yesterday. So you can see that the watch list was a miniature watch list, only the indices and the commodities. So today, if you look at what's happening or what we do have, at least you can see the currency pairs are back. At least the markets have stabilized. You all know that the markets have been a bit uncertain this week, especially due to the whole issue of the tariffs, that Trump placed and then put on pause again. So a lot of uncertainty that's been there on the markets, but at least the market seems to have stabilized to some extent. So at least the currency pairs are back. So this is going to be the watch list for today. Hopefully you can end up taking note of that. And of course, considering the fact that we didn't have any currency pairs yesterday, so there's really nothing much to review. So we can look at one screenshot that we did get from you guys. And this one was from Stacy. So Stacy, if you're watching, shout out to you. So this is on the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. It seems like you got a very good sell, definitely within some sort of a seller's region, somewhere within this area right here before the market made a move to the downside. And at least when the market started to move down, I can see that your stop loss did come beneath your point of entry, which was very, very good. So shout out to you for that. I mean, if you're still hanging on to this trade and you've managed it, then that's really good. It's definitely a pair on our watch list for today. So hopefully we should be expecting to see more strength on the CHF and weakness on the AUD. But shout out to you once again for that. So Stacy, keep up the good work. So remember, guys, if you do get any trades, whether good or bad, feel free to send them in to us. Our contact details are in the video description. You can send them in to us via WhatsApp, and we'll definitely give you the much needed shout out. And I mean, if we do see something that you can't change, then we'll also point that out for you to make your trading that much better. Also, feel free to reach out to us with the same contact details. I mean, if you're struggling with your trading and you do need a bit more help, then at least make sure that you do use those contact details well, and we'll see how best we can end up helping you. So we're going to jump straight into matters today. So this is the watch list for the sake of guys who are just joining us. This is what we're going to be watching out for. So we're going to be starting off with the Swiss franc pairs, mix and match them up with everything on the sell side, then move on to the yens, the euros, then do the NZDs, then finish off with the indices and the commodities. So the first one off the line is the US dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, we're going to be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities. So these are the three areas that we're going to be watching out for. So aggressive area, semi-aggressive conservative region somewhere within here. You can see that the market is already starting to come up, which is good. So hopefully we will get that pullback coming back in within this region here. And hopefully the buyers do slow down. If we get that, then at least I think we could get some very, very good selling opportunities within here, maybe during the US session from around 4:30. Hopefully, during the London session, the market comes back in, hopefully slows down, sets itself up properly. So let's just wait and see what happens. So also watch out for the region at the top. It's a bit of a long shot, but we will be watching out for it. I mean, if the markets do end up going up, higher up, maybe the big boys need much better prices, then we will be waiting to see whether we could get some selling opportunities a bit much higher. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, we're going to be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities. So these are the three areas that we are going to be watching out for. So hopefully you can end up taking note of them. The market is back in within this region right here. You can see that earlier there was a push by the seller to come down. And at least if this ended up being some sort of a probe, we'll end up knowing now because the market has just come back in within this region. So hopefully if we do get a hold within this region, you could get or possibly see some attempts by the buyers to break to the upside. If that ends up being unsuccessful, then at least we could get some selling opportunities within here. Watch out for probes, spikes to the upside. At least if you do attempt sells there, at least your stops could be somewhere within this region and you could attempt to come to the downside. At least we will be targeting down within here. But one area I can watch out, or I can point out rather, is this particular region right here. I mean, if the market comes down and you get the market starting to hold above this region to the upside, it might not really be a good thing. So it's either one of two things. You could manage your trade at that point in time, which would be good. Alternatively, you could close because the market can easily also still come back to the upside. But at least if the big boys do show up, you know, these big boys who push the market to the downside, and I think this is the area where Stacy did get her trade, then at least if these big boys are back and we actually do clear this region to the downside quite aggressively, then at least we could be coming down to within here. For those of you that are really good at trading, maybe you could scale in within this region. The only thing that I'm not too sure about, all right, it's 40 pips, which is not too bad. So I guess the risk to reward can also be sufficient. I mean, if you get a stop loss of about 15 pips or so, or 20 pips within here, you could also end up getting another 1:2 coming down off this region to the downside. But at least we need the market to break to the downside, come back in for the pullback or the retest within there before we actually do look for more selling opportunities. So let's wait and see what happens on this one. Remember, in case the market comes up till the red SNR, we can still watch out for sales. But if it does break and hold to the upside of that region, then unfortunately at that point in time, we'll have to fall back on our selling opportunities. So the next one, this is the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, we're going to be trying to see whether we can also get some selling opportunities. You can see that also this one is pulling back. It looks kind of similar to the US dollar against the Swiss franc, and we'll be waiting to see what happens. So you could find that when one starts to make a move, also have a look at the other, because correlation is also kind of in play between the USDs and the cards. They're both showing weakness. So, I mean, when that weakness starts to show and the market comes back in within here, also have a look at USD CHF. You could find that, I mean, if you're really good at trading, you could definitely end up catching both. So watch out for that. Watch out for the region at the top. I mean, you could also find the pullback coming in within here. It's a bit unlikely, but I mean, you know, anything is possible when it comes to the Forex market, especially right now with Trump tweaking a lot of things. So you could easily find price coming back in within this region, and you could find some proper sales still happening off that area there. But remember that in case the market breaks and holds above the red SNR to the upside, then unfortunately at that point in time, there will be no trade for us. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the Swiss franc. So for this one, we're also going to be trying to see whether we could get some selling opportunities as well. You can see some sort of correlation. So I guess potentially all the CHFs are also pulling back. So you could find that when they make a move, they might make a move together. So this one found some sort of support region here. You can see that yesterday the market really dropped quite hard, came down, found a region of support. You can see some sort of a double bottom within here for the guys who follow chart patterns. And you can see that the market is actually coming back. And hopefully we do get the pullback coming back in within here, because this is a strategic level, also visible on the bigger time frame. If price comes back in within there, then at least we could get some very, very good selling opportunity off that region to come to the downside. So watch out for that. Also watch out for the region at the top. You also could find the market coming back in within there. At least we do have some sellers within this region. You can see that yesterday, price did push to the downside. This was during the New York Stock Exchange open. You can see that the sellers pushed to the downside, and it's very easy for price to also come back in within this region, especially for guys who use, what is it called? Is it the smart money concept, supply and demand type of traders? If that's the type of trading you do, then at least I know you should potentially be also watching out for that region. Price can potentially come back in within that area. So that's pretty much it in terms of the CHFs. So right now we're going to move on to the yen pairs. and we're going to mix and match them up with everything on the sell side. So we're going to start off with the US dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one, we're going to be trying to see whether we could get some selling opportunities. So these are the three areas that we will be watching out for. So this one also kind of looks similar to the US dollar against the Swiss franc to some extent. The market came down, it's pulling back in, and you can see that potentially also could be something to do with the USDs, maybe giving some sort of pullbacks. Let's just hope that the market comes back in within this area right here. And you could find that maybe potentially within this region, you could find some very, very good selling opportunities happening off here. So hopefully the London session gives us the pullback. Already you can see that the Frankfurt session, the big boys in Frankfurt have already started giving the pullback. So maybe during the London session, the market pushes up a bit higher. During the US session, if the market sets itself up within this region properly, then we will be looking for some selling opportunities then. So watch out for that. Also watch out for the region at the top. In case the market finds its way there, we're still going to be looking out for sells, but if it breaks and holds above that region to the upside, then unfortunately we will have to fall back in terms of looking for the sells up until maybe price breaks and holds to the downside of that red SNR. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against Japanese yen. So for this one, we're going to be trying to see whether we could get some selling opportunities. So we will have to wait and see if either we could get the market breaking beneath this region to the downside. You can't see that price had actually broken to the downside before, but since it's come back in, then this is a probe. And remember, we always talk about a break and a hold to the downside. So if the market comes back in and actually holds within here, then at least we could look for selling opportunities at that point in time. But right now, one thing we do know for sure, even just looking at this, and you don't really need an indicator to tell you this, hii ni kazi ya macho. You can definitely see that price has bounced off here before, bounced off here again, and even right now it's attempting to bounce off this area to the upside. So that tells us that there's definitely a region of support within this area. So we should not really be looking for sells just yet. You could also find price coming back in, within this region right here. You could find that some very, very good sells could definitely happen off that region to the downside. And I mean, even if you do get the sells within here, when price comes down within this area here, at least you should be managing your trade, because you can see that maybe potentially at that point in time, the market could be getting into some sort of a range. So let's wait and see what happens. Definitely you can manage that. Definitely target down within here, but I guess this would be the best two options that we do have. For those of you that are really sniper, maybe you could get some sells within here, because it seems that maybe there's also a level somewhere within here, not a very strong level, but you can potentially find that in case the price comes up and maybe the buyers run out of steam within this particular region, you definitely can also end up looking for sells within this area right here. But be a bit careful, because spikes within this area, maybe as the market just tries to tap into this supply region, you could easily end up getting stopped out. So just make sure that you're a bit careful on that. But at least remember that in case price breaks and holds above the SNR to the upside, then unfortunately at that point in time, we'll have to fall back on our selling opportunities. So the next one, this is the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one, we're going to be trying to see whether we could get some sells. So these are the three areas that we're going to be watching out for. You can see that the market had calmed down, attempted to hold to the downside to some extent, then went up, came down aggressively. And right now, this could be the pullback, just coming back in within this region. So we will be waiting to see if we can get the market actually holding to the downside of this area. And at least if these sellers can push the price back down to the downside of this region, I think we could get some very, very good selling opportunities then. Alternatively, if the buyers keep pushing up, because this is also definitely a region of support and resistance, you could find price pushing off this region to the upside. If that ends up being the case, then we'll definitely have to wait and see if we can get price coming up a bit higher. Hopefully during the US session, price could be back within here, sets itself up properly. We could get some very good selling opportunities there. So watch out for that. Also watch out for this region at the bottom. I mean, if you do get the sells, make sure that you really manage your trade within here. You can see that price really pushed to the upside on Wednesday. So when price comes back in within here, there's a possibility the buyers could definitely end up pushing the market back to the upside. So just make sure that you really do some good money management then. So last but not least, for the yen pairs, we do have the Great British Pound against the Japanese yen. So for this one, we are gonna still be trying to see whether we can get selling opportunities, just like the rest of the yens. So hopefully we'll be keeping our fingers crossed to see if we could get that yen strength coming in. So these are the three areas we will be watching out for. To some extent, you can see that there's some correlation, amongst the yen pairs. All of them are pulling back. They've all somehow struck within a region where we do have support. You can see that the market is reacting. Let's just hope that the pullbacks come back in within strategic areas. So for this one, we'll be hoping price comes back in somewhere within here. So we'll definitely be waiting to see if we can get the sells from higher up. So if we get the market maybe attempting to break to the upside, come down, maybe get some liquidity grabs within that particular region, hold to the downside, maybe the big sellers show up, then I think at that point in time, if everything aligns with the time, you could get a very, very good selling opportunity then. So just make sure you watch out for that, but also watch out for these two regions right here. Definitely areas where you should be managing your trades. And of course, for those of you that are really good at trading, also areas where you can also scale in. So that's pretty much it in terms of the yen pairs. So we're going to move on to the next set of currency pairs, which are the euro pairs. So we're going to start off with the euro against the US dollar. So for this one, we're going to be trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities on this one. The euros have been showing a lot of strength. I know there's some CPI news events that have just come out right now. So let's see if those ones end up coming into play. Maybe during the London session open, you can see that also some GBP news events have also just come out, but GBPs are showing a lot of weakness, a bit of mix and match between what was happening here. Some news events are positive, some are negative, but generally we're still holding it to be negative. The euros, the news events that came out may be showing a bit of weakness. Maybe that could just be the pullbacks coming in, but generally the euros are showing a lot of strength, but there's still more to come. So we'll be waiting to see how things end up playing out as the day does end up progressing on. So you can see yesterday, the USD was really getting hammered by the euro, pushing to the upside. The market struck some sort of resistance area at the top right there. The pullback is coming in. So we'll be waiting to see if we could potentially get the market potentially lifting off this region to the upside. The pullback was expected. You can see that when the market broke to the upside, there wasn't a pullback coming back in. So this is now the pullback, the official pullback, that we're waiting for. So we just need to wait and see if we can get, the buyers or rather the sellers slowing down and the buyers showing up within here. Then maybe we could get a very good buying opportunity off this region to the upside. And definitely buys off there coming up. It's quite a handful of pips. So we're looking at about 82 pips, which is actually not too bad. So we'll be waiting to see what happens, but also watch out for the region at the bottom. I mean, if the pullback comes in a bit deeper, then that's the red scenario, the last area where we will be watching out for those last ditch buying opportunities. So moving on into the next one, which is the euro against the Australian dollar. So for this one, we will be trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities as well. So you can see that the market has been making a sequence of nice higher highs and higher lows, pushing to the upside. So right now you can see that the market is coming down. Let's just hope that the market could come in, maybe back somewhere as close as possible within this region here before pushing to the upside. So that could be one option. The other option could be if the market actually breaks above this region to the upside, then at least on the pullback, back within here, we could try and see whether we could get those semi-aggressive conservative buying opportunities. So watch out for that. There's definitely also a minor SNR somewhere within this region. I mean, if the sellers do slow down and the buyers do seem to show up, you definitely can also look for buys within there. But also just be careful because you could find that maybe some spikes could easily end up happening within this region, as the market just tries to tap into this demand area right here before pushing to the upside. So make sure you watch out for that. Watch out for the times, like we do keep on pointing out. Also remember that we are trading in very uncertain times. So just make sure that you also watch out for your risk. It doesn't necessarily have to do with things that are on the economic calendar. Remember, Trump is in power, and for as long as he's in power, he can tweet anything, and the markets can definitely start to push or move, in whatever direction, may be against you or in your favor, but just make sure that always your risk is in check. So moving on into the next one, this is the euro against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, we're going to be trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities. So these are the three areas that we've mapped out. So we're going to be trying to see whether we could get buys lifting off here. The market has come in quite fast, which is okay, but hopefully we get the sellers slowing down within here, and maybe the market might just need to tap somewhere within this area here. And hopefully the buyers do push the market to the upside. We could definitely resume with the move to the upside. So let's just hope and wait and see we get that maybe during the London session, but also watch out for the region at the bottom. In case the market finds its way there, that's definitely going to be the last area where we will be trying to see whether we can get our last buying opportunities. So last but not least, for the euro pairs, we do have the euro against the Great British Pound. So for this one, we're going to be trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities as well. So you can see some similar correlation amongst the euro pairs. I mean, all of them are giving some sort of pullbacks coming in. Let's just hope that the pullbacks come in within strategic levels. Some of them, like the euro against the Canadian dollar, the price is already back within a strategic area. So for this one, bit of a long way to go, but it definitely can find its way back within here. And if the market sets itself up, then I think we could get some very, very good buying opportunity back within or off this region right here. So just make sure that you watch out for that. Watch out for the times. Also remember to watch out for your risk. So I guess that's pretty much it in terms of the euro pairs. So we're going to move on to the last set of currency pairs, which are the NZD pairs. And we're going to mix and match the NZD with everything on the south side. So we're going to start off with the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. So for this one, we're going to be trying to see whether we could get some good buying opportunities. At least you can see that the market has been pushing up. Also definitely something to do with USD weakness. So let's see if the pullback comes in, and at least the pullback has already started coming back in. So at least if the pullback taps back in within this region, we get the sellers slowing down, the big buyers show up, everything aligns with the time, then I think we could get some very good buying opportunities off this region to the upside. Watch out for the region at the top. Definitely will need to do some money management there, because you can see that prices come up, tap within there, prices reversed off this region and come back in. So it's very possible that the sellers within here can also react again. But at least if we do break above this region to the upside on the pullback, if you do manage your first trade, then you potentially could get a second trade in somewhere within that area. So watch out for that. Watch out for the region at the bottom. Also an area where we will be watching out for buying opportunities. Price finds its way back within there, then we'll still be on the lookout for buys. But if it breaks and holds the red SNR, then I guess at that point in time, it will be off our watch list. So moving on into the next one, which is the Australian dollar against the New Zealand dollar. So for this one, we're going to be trying to see whether we could get some selling opportunities. So these are the three areas that we're going to be watching out for. So in the morning when we're looking at the charts, price was just coming down. So it seems to have actually broken this region to the downside, but the area still remains. Remember one thing we always keep on pointing out: for a breach to be valid, we need to see the breach and the hold. So right now, prices come back in within here. Let's see a bit more of what happens. You could find some probes, some spikes inside bars within that region. But generally, if the market continues to hold to the downside of this area, then at least we'll still be watching out for sells. And you can see that right from the Asian session, you know, the big boys have really pushed this market to the downside. The pullbacks are very small, but at least right now we have some sort of a much more decent pullback that's coming in. But also remember that it's very possible for price to also come back in all the way till within this region right here. So, I mean, if the pullback comes in a bit deeper, the better, because I mean, remember that also very many people are also watching out and trying to chase the selling opportunities. So definitely a lot of people will get stopped out, turn into buyers. Price comes back in within here. They won't see the sell coming in, but at least you will be ready for that. So watch out for that. Watch out for the region at the top. Also possible for price to come back in there. Slight chance it could, but if it finds its way there, then at least you should be ready for that as well. So the next one, this is the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, we're going to be trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities. So these are the three areas we are going to be watching out for. So right now, price seems to have broken above this area to the upside. You can see that the sellers have actually pushed this price down quite aggressive, and the price is just holding within here. So we will be waiting to see a bit more of what happens. There's a possibility the sellers might attempt to come down lower, maybe tapping back within these regions here, but at least if price is pushed back to the upside by the buyers and price actually holds above this area to the upside and everything aligns with the times, definitely could get some very good buying opportunities off this region to the upside. So watch out for that, but also do watch out for these two regions. If the pullbacks do come in a bit deeper and the big boys do need those prices, then at least we will be ready for that. But always remembering that if price breaks and holds the red SNR, which is the aggressive area, as we call it, to the downside and holds beneath it, then unfortunately at that point in time, there will be no trade for us up until price comes back to the upside of the red SNR. So last but not least, for the currency pairs, we do have the Great British Pound against the New Zealand dollar. So for this one, we're going to be trying to see whether we could get some selling opportunities. So these are the three areas we're going to be watching out for. So you can see that the market has been coming down, although in a very choppy mess, coming down, maybe to some extent, some sort of a channel coming down. So right now the market found some sort of a support region here, bounced to the upside, come down, but we're hoping to see that the buyers push the market back within here. And at least if price comes back in within this region, I think we could get some very, very good selling opportunities off that region to the downside. So make sure that you do watch out for that. You can see that the market is in some sort of a downward channel. In fact, for the guys who follow chart patterns, if I were to put the channel like that, you definitely can't see where we are. So, I mean, watching out for the cells within here, we're definitely spot on. There's a confluence whereby two things align within a particular region. But also watch out for the region at the top. It's a bit of an outlier, but in case price comes back all the way to within here, we're still going to be watching out for cells. But if it breaks and holds above this region to the upside, then at that point in time, we'll have to fall back on our selling opportunities. So hopefully you've taken note of that. And for the sake of guys who are new, I know you're wondering, we're supposed to be buying NZD, why are we selling this one? Also bear in mind where the New Zealand dollar is. So on this one, it's to the right. So it's the counter currency pair. So by selling the Great British Pound, we're simultaneously buying the New Zealand dollar. So for this one, the New Zealand dollar is to the left. So it's the base currency pair. It's the basis of what we're doing. So that you need to make sure that you also factor that in so that you don't get it twisted. So I guess that's pretty much it in terms of all the currency pairs. So hopefully you've taken note of that. So I guess we can move on to the indices and the commodities. So we're going to be starting off with the NAS 100, then move on to the US 30, then silver, and finish off with gold. So for the NAS 100, this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. You can see the three areas that Mitch had pointed out. Same three areas that we're going to be watching out for today. So after the massive move going up yesterday, the market pulled back in, but you can see that the buyers have not really come back in fully. After the pullback came in, you can see that there was a bit of a struggle going on during the US session, but hopefully today we'll maybe get the markets moving. So you can see that during the Asian session, the Frankfurt session, the market tapped within here. It's attempting to start move to the upside. Let's just hope we can get that last pullback coming back in. Maybe it might just tap in within there, or quite a number of areas within here that the market could potentially end up tapping back in before the market leaves to the upside. So watch out for that. But generally, the same three areas that we had are the ones that we're still going to be watching out for today. Remember, for the indices and the commodities, for as long as price is holding above the red SNR to the upside, the bias is to look for buying opportunities. If it breaks and holds to the downside of the red SNR, then our biases do end up shifting. So for today, or let me say for now, because you never really know what could happen. For now, at least we know that we're watching out for buying opportunities since we're holding above the red SNR. So moving on into the next one, which is the US 30. So for this one yesterday, similar situation with the NAS 100. We're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So these are the three areas Mitch had pointed out. You also can see some illustrations. So price came down, did some sort of a probe within there, seems to be bouncing off this region to the upside. So this one is more or less identical to the NAS 100. So the game plan is more or less the same. The levels are the same as what we were watching out for yesterday, no change. So we'll also be waiting to see what happens on this one. The buyers have started to come in, but I can't quite say that those are the big buyers just yet. Generally, you can't see the market going up, but I don't really think we can say that those are the big buyers or the big boys. So you could find that the market could attempt to push down before the market really takes off to the upside, and I really hope that ends up being the case. But generally, do watch out for this area here, and also quite a number of SNRs, that could definitely also come into play on your way up. So just make sure that you watch out for this region here and also this region here. Same thing with the NAS 100. Just make sure you watch out for potential problem areas where you definitely should be managing your trades. So hopefully you've taken note of that. Let's see how things end up going today. Hopefully there are not going to be any real shockers on the charts. Lots of investors in the US, even the billionaires, the rich folks are really going at Trump because of how he's really rattled the markets around. This week alone, the US stock market has actually lost $2.5 trillion. So lots of investors have definitely lost money due to Trump's putting in the tariffs, his war with China, and, taking out the tariffs and generally just beefing with everyone. So they're also going at him, and hopefully he will end up taking a much lesser aggressive stance in terms of how he goes about things. So moving on into silver. So for silver, yesterday and today, the bias is to try to see whether we could get selling opportunities. But remember that the bias is purely based on the fact that we're holding beneath this region to the downside. The market did attempt to give some sells yesterday, but generally not really the biggest of sells because the market didn't make lower lows and lower highs. But we will be waiting to see what ends up happening. So right now the market is back in within this region. If the market breaks and holds above this region to the upside, and we can't get price coming back to the downside of this region, then at that point in time, we're going to start looking for buying opportunities. So this is going to be our defining moment based on what happens here. But if the market goes up, comes down aggressively and holds within this region to the downside, then at that point in time, we'll still be looking for selling opportunities. So let's wait and see what happens on this one. There's a possibility silver might end up following gold because gold has really shot for the skies. So you could find that silver might end up following gold, which is still fine. Remember that when it comes to trading, you should be fluid. So we're not very rigid in terms of our stance. In case the market shifts direction, then that's exactly what we're going to be doing. So we're not biased in terms of where the market should be going, but at least all we know is that for as long as we're holding above or beneath the red SNR, then at least we are guided in terms of what we should be doing. So last but not least, we do have gold. So for gold, yesterday, the bias was to try to see whether we could get some buying opportunities. And before we even look at today, you can't see what happened yesterday. So in the morning, price was here. You can't see the three regions that Mitch had pointed out in the game plan of what to expect. The pullback came in, price just came shy off this region. Then after that, you can see that the market did actually bounce off this region to the upside. The market started off quite slowly. Then much later on during the US session, you can see that the market really picked up a lot of steam. And this was especially during the New York Stock Exchange Open. So you can see that the market really started to push to the upside. And generally, if you look at where gold is right now, we're definitely at the highest. So, I guess this pullback was some sort of a correction. Price came back, tapped within here. You can see that the big sellers had really come in quite aggressively and hard at this area right here. But you can see that the buyers have really pushed the market to the upside. So gold definitely made a new high this morning. So for this one, we're going to be trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities. So these are the three areas that we will be watching out for. So hopefully you can end up taking note of them. Remember that also for this one, for as long as we're holding above the red SNR, then the bars should be to try to see whether we could get buys. In the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price was actually somewhere within this region here. So you can see that it just tapped this area. The sellers have come in quite aggressively. We're expecting buys to happen off here, but it seems that the market has already jumped ahead of us, but it's okay. You should never really be chasing. So we will be waiting to see what happens. It's possible and highly likely that price will come back in within this region here. The reason why I say that is just looking at how the sellers came down. I think when the price comes back in within here or somewhere within this region here, because maybe price could just be tapping within here, they might have another go trying to break their previous record, which is somewhere within here. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed to see what happens. But in case that doesn't happen and price continues to rally up higher, unless you're a real cowboy on the charts, and I know that some of you are. If you're going to be looking at this on a smaller time frame, then maybe you could get some buying opportunities within here. But I think that is a big gamble. There's a very thin line between trading and gambling. So I think it's better you wait, potentially to wait, see if you could get price breaking above here. But of course, if you're reading the story of the 1 minute and the 3 minute time frame or the 15-second chart, because maybe some of you do that, if you can get some proper pullbacks you can read, then you could jump in on some buys. But one thing you need to realize is that generally within this area is a region of resistance, and you could end up going head on with the sellers who are sitting there. And it might not be a very pleasant experience. So just make sure that you also have that at the back of your mind. But waiting, I don't think is really that bad. It can save you a lot of money, and at least you could get a proper buying opportunity. So watch out for this area here, a bridge to the upside, but also watch out for this region right here. I don't think there are that many fundamentals that could make price really pull back all the way till within there. We have some PPIs much later on, but I don't really think these ones can really push the market all the way down there. But if Trump decides to be crazy, then tweet something. Potentially, you could find the price back within the red SNR. So I hope you've taken note of everything we've discussed. I think we can end up looking at the chat box real quick to see what guys are saying, if there are any comments. So seeing a bit of chit chat going on there. I see AI music. Must be Tony. I'm thinking you're saying good morning, Afriforex and everyone. It feels always feels like home whenever I'm here. My apologies for my inconsistency. To be honest, I work as a welder, and most times I join after the live sessions due to work restrictions. Locked. No worries, no worries. Karibu sana. We're still happy. And at least considering the fact that things are on YouTube, then at least you can also end up catching up at your own convenience. But we're always happy, when you do end up joining us here and you're saying Afriforex for life. Asante sana. Thank you so much for that. And I hope that you do end up gaining a lot in terms of your trading. So I see Lyle there. You're saying waiting for confirmation. Trump might be forced to make a deal with China, courtesy of the bond market. Indices will rally. We'll wait and see what happens. And you're also saying that gold might end up rallying up to 3,500 by end of Q2. Could be, because I'm also thinking gold might end up hitting 4,000 sometime this year. So if we do end up hitting the 3,500 mark in Q2, then I think by Q4, it's very possible we could actually end up hitting 4,000. So definitely we'll be watching out for that. But generally, you can see that the market has continued to rally up. And I think this push coming down definitely ended up giving the buyers more legs, more energy to run, lots of liquidity. And you can see that the next push after that has been quite aggressive. So I guess maybe this is what the market needed. And I think the market could really end up really taking off. So you're saying till Japan's bond, vigilante step in, shorted US treasuries, Trump will definitely be taking a much more restrictive stance on the tariff front. He was wrong. Definitely. In fact, most of the US citizens are also not very happy with Trump. It's like, World War III is like an economic war. The first two world wars were physical wars, but it seems like World War III is an economic war. So China on one hand, and the US, of course, being the two biggest superpowers, and they're going at each other. And of course, it's affecting everyone else globally. In fact, one thing that I'm really wondering, and I was having a chat with some economists yesterday, and I'm wondering, if everything in the world is really moving, how come the Kenya shilling against the US dollar is not really moving? So there should be some sort of manipulation that's also going on here locally, because how can you explain the fact that we have a floating exchange rate, but it's been at 129, 128, 130 for the last 1 year, despite everything that's going on globally. Do you really want to tell me that the Kenya shilling is really that strong? You know, there definitely is some manipulation that's going on. So we'll have to wait and see what happens, of course, locally, but internationally, like I was saying, the US citizens are not very happy with Trump because the war that they're having with each other, the tariffs that China had actually put in for the US, I think, were at 54% or 56%. They went up to 84. Trump, in retaliation, went and put tariffs of 102% on Chinese goods. And you're left there wondering, between the two of them, who's going to be the biggest loser? I mean, US imports so much from China compared to the other way around. So even simple things like an iPhone is going to triple, because if they're produced in the US, they'll definitely end up going for about $3,500, which is absolutely ridiculous. And most goods, most commodities in the US are going to become extremely expensive. So just like you're saying, I think Trump will have to be forced to calm down, because if he continues like this, he's actually going to be the biggest loser, and the American citizens are going to be the biggest losers. I mean, they put him into power, maybe 3-4 months ago, and already there's a lot of uproar, by the US citizens about Trump. But I think Trump doesn't really care, because I mean, this is his last term. He's not really looking for re-election, and there's nothing as as dangerous as having a president who's not looking for a re-election. It can really jeopardize a lot of things. But I hope that he does end up coming down. So I think, Lyle, there you're saying sterilization by the CBK. Definitely. I think the Kenya shilling against the US dollar is manipulated. It can't be at 129 based on everything that's going on. And I think when they stop manipulating things, I wouldn't be surprised to see that shoot up to maybe even about 200, which is ridiculous. But we'll have to wait and see what ends up happening. So I guess that's pretty much from me and from us. Always happy to have chit chat with guys here. But we hope that you've had a pleasant week on the chat, and we hope that you do end up having a good time today on the chats as well. Remember, if you do get any trades, feel free to send them in to us. If you do need more education, more insights, feel free to visit www.afriforex.com. But also feel free to reach out to us. Contact details are definitely there on the video description. So I guess we'll see you guys on Monday. So with that, happy trading, guys. And bye for now. May the peace be with you. God bless.